Hey, it's Andrew Palmer from Elegant Marketplace. Welcome, Elegant Marketplace users and newsletter subscribers. I'd love to introduce you to, and I will, to Mark and John from WS Form. They're part of Westguard Solutions, an agency that developed websites and had some issues with some forms that they were using, other forms that we all know, Ninja, Caldera, etc. And they thought they would build a form that they would want to use and other developers could use as well. Simply drag and drop. So Mark and John, if you introduce yourself to my crowd and tell us all about yourselves, where you are, who you are, and why you are.
Yeah, hey Andrew. My name is Mark Westguard. I'm the lead developer on WS Form. And it's my colleague John Petroviak, who's the lead front-end developer on WS Form. So he's responsible for how it looks. I'm responsible for how it works. We are based in New Orleans. We're traditionally a web design agency. So I've been in the game for 23 years, built many, many websites. We've been using WordPress for many years. And one of the challenges we had as an agency was the whole realm of forms. It's something that web developers don't particularly like to build. But they're a very important part of all websites. Every website needs a form to get feedback, leads, any kind of business inquiries, even e-commerce.
And they're a bit of a pain, let's be honest, because they're just a pain. So we know that pain. So hopefully you've eased our pain on these forms as well.
Yeah, I think that's been one of our objectives, has been particularly from a developer perspective, is being able to rapidly develop forms. But also address some other issues such as mobile responsiveness, accessibility, just the ease at which you can build a form for a client and really make it, at the end of the day, make it more profitable for you. It's less time to build the form. You're not having to install multiple plugins to do that with our particular plugins. So we think that we've addressed a lot of those key issues that we were experiencing. One of the other problems we had with other form plugins was typically when you put a form on your beautifully designed website, it's like a little alien sitting there. And you've then got to go and learn the CSS classes and start it up and get that form style specifically for your website. So we've taken an interesting approach to that to improve the ease at which a developer can get a form on their site, but not necessarily have to spend hours learning new classes and things like that.
For sure. And if I'm not a developer, I mean, is that process easy as well? Does it kind of inherit my CSS of the website? Or
yeah, so there's two sides to it. So if you're a developer, say perhaps you're using Foundation or Bootstrap, for example, our form plugin actually outputs native HTML to those frameworks. So out of the box it runs. And we physically change the HTML that gets spat out of the system so that it matches all of the framework HTML that's required for that. And then we also have our own framework, WS Form, we've called it. And it's a very, very simple framework that enables you to build truly mobile responsive forms. And then we actually use the built-in WordPress Customize tool to enable you to change the colors, fonts, gutters, borders, and everything else. So we've tried to use as much of the core WordPress functionality with WS Form as possible, which is one of the things that WordPress encourages with their plugins.
Yeah. For sure.
So from a novice perspective, they can go in, start using our plugin. We actually, in our welcome screen, which we'll show you shortly, we actually ask the user, what is their skill level? Are they used to building forms or are they a complete novice? And then based upon that decision, we then actually modify the interface of WS Form to make it either easier or more developer focused, just based upon your skill level.
I noticed that when I was testing it myself, because I've asked Randy Brown to write a demo or a user guide to it for our users, if you like, because we're Divi, we're Beaver Builder, we're Elementor, and one of the things that interested me is that you've actually got modules for all those, those three most popular page builders,
right?
And hence that's why I'm interested in obviously looking at it, because although we used to start off with Divi, we've moved on to Elementor and Divi, and now we're moving into Page Builder as well. And being really Page Builder agnostic, and we've even found Bold Grid a few months ago, and that's its own Page Builder. So that's WordPress based as well, and there's Site Origin and all these kind of other page builders that we've all got experience with. And of course, Gutenberg, and you've got a Gutenberg block as well. So, you're really answering every single question around page builders and WordPress natively. So that's what I like. So whenever you're ready, jump into a demo or show us what it's like, because
we'll talk you through it and show you some of the key features. And I think one of the things that we have paid particular attention to when we've been developing this plugin, and we've sponsored WordCamp US, WordCamp Europe, a few others. It's been a great experience to actually meet WordPress users and listen to their grief. And there's a lot of very dedicated form plugin users out there, and when we've shown them the product, they've been really impressed with it. Performance is another thing that we focus a lot of time on making sure that the forms render very quickly. High volume websites will on some other form plugins will impact your database, because it's shoving all of those submissions into post database.
It's doing calls in and out and everything, so it's just it's a nightmare. For forms, let's be honest here, forms are a nightmare. Divi has its own form, that's got its own issues, but the reason Divi is so successful with its own form is because it looks like a Divi form. It looks like your website, so you don't have to shape it or anything like that, but there's still attaching a capture to it. They've only just put that in, can you believe, after Divi's been going for 4 years now. You've got the opportunities for users to basically build their own form, make it look how they want, adjust it, put, if you want a couple of columns next to each other, you can do that, and really easily, and it stays there. So give us a demo. I'm really excited about this.
Let's have a look, and we'll talk you through the process. So hopefully you can see my screen here, Andrew.
Absolutely, we got a screen sharing situation going on.
Okay, great. So this is our kind of welcome script, which you only see once. But the idea here is for WS Form to just learn a little bit more about you. So if you're not that familiar with building forms, you can say keep it simple. If you're a developer, you can say I'm a developer. Now, when you say I'm a developer, we open a few things up in the administration interface. So we make it a little bit more easy for you to use variables in like default value fields and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
We'll show you some of those features in just a moment. The other thing that the welcome script does is it analyzes your CSS files on your website, and it looks to see if you're using any of these frameworks here. So Bootstrap, Foundation. If you're not, or you're not sure, you can use the WS Form one. So again, what that does is if it detects, say, Foundation 6.4, when it renders the site on the front end, it will use HTML native to Foundation 6.4 for you. So for now, I'm going to use
properly developer friendly then.
Yeah, and it makes it a lot easier for a developer using those frameworks to get started.
Brilliant.
You mentioned BoldGrid earlier, for example. They use a lot of Bootstrap, and they were particularly interested in that feature. So that's actually been quite an interesting thing to talk to these like theme developers that we've been talking to have been very interested in that feature.
Yeah.
So this is the Add New page on WS Form, and we have a number of built-in templates that you can choose from, or you can choose a blank template.
Right.
We actually have some GDPR functionality that's built into WS Form. So for those of you that want to build a data erase request or data export request, you can very simply build those forms in one click. Brilliant. And the cool thing about those forms is they tie into the native GDPR functionality of WordPress.
Wow.
So when you fill out a data erase request, that will actually kick off the data erase request that WordPress has built into it.
Cool.
Now, we also, one of the key things about the product is we have tried to bundle into the core product as much as we possibly can without you needing to add additional add-ons to do that.
Sure.
A very simple example is the signature field. On other form plugins, you typically have to install a separate plugin to achieve that signature field. We have that built in. But you can extend WS Form. One of the areas that we haven't built in a lot of that functionality, and we require a plugin, is when you're integrating with a third-party solution. Because obviously we don't want all that functionality sitting there every time you render a page.
And I think that's the problem with a lot of, not just form builders, but with a lot of plugins. They try and be, and let's face it, page builders, they try and be the all-in-one solution. But 9 times out of 10, 70% of what's actually in the the code isn't really needed. You know, somebody needs to invent a switch this off kind of situation, but you've done it the other way around. You can add if you want to. So
you can add to it, and we've got all the main integrations out there that you would expect. MailChimp, Constant Contact, we've got Salesforce, we have Zapier, we've got Slack. I'll show you a couple of those in a moment. But one of the things that we do differently with our integrations is a typical form plugin will just push the data to MailChimp. It'll just add an email address to a list in MailChimp. What we've done is we actually connect to MailChimp and we enable you to choose your MailChimp list. And what I can then do is actually click on one of those lists, and WS Form will then build a form for you. So what it's doing is it's pulling down the fields that you have in MailChimp. There are some fixed fields like email address and stuff like that.
Sure.
If you have any custom fields in MailChimp, those are actually added to this form. And it will also tie in with interest groups. So any interest groups that you might have in MailChimp become select boxes or radios, whatever you want to do with it. So if we go into the actions for that particular, I've still got the tutorial coming up here. Let me just hide that. This is a fresh install. But if we go into the Add to MailChimp action here, you can actually see that this is all mapped and ready to go for you. So these are your form fields here. These are your MailChimp fields. I can actually expand this. And you can see everything is mapped automatically out of the box. Now, if you've already got an existing form and you want to connect that to MailChimp, you can do that as well. So you can either use the built-in templates, or you can connect any form that you want using our plugins there.
Right.
Another example of that is Slack, for example. If we were to connect Slack to this, you can actually push your form request to Slack as well.
Now, just for the people that wouldn't understand why you would want to connect Slack to a form, give us a 12.
An example of that might be you may have a sales inquiry form on your website, and maybe you've got a Slack channel that your sales team are using. So you could say, my name is such and such, I'm interested in this particular product, and that can then push a message to that particular Slack channel and notify that sales team. And our Slack add-on is pretty... we've gone through the Slack API and made pretty much all of the options available. So you can change even the color of the Slack buttons and all this kind of stuff.
Wow.
With that particular feature. We've also got other add-ons for like post management and user management in WordPress. So you can create posts from a form submission. So
that's an often wanted request. Well, on that, Postman, just let me interrupt you, because that's what I do. It's my job. While I think of stuff. Does this store any of the data within WordPress as well? So if somebody sends me a form, do I go anywhere like Gravity Forms does? And, particularly Divi Form doesn't. So an Elementor doesn't either, their form. So one of our vendors basically invented, Divi and Elementor database holder.
So what happens with this is you can create a new form or use one of these templates, and then you can then push the content of that form as a new post in WordPress, as any post type that you want. So it could be a post, it could be a page, it could even be a product if you wanted to, if you had that as a custom post type. And then it also supports metadata behind those posts as well. So any custom fields that you've put together for a particular post, you can submit all that information as well. It also supports featured image as well. So if you want to upload media to a particular post, you can do that with this add-on as well.
Right. And that would be particularly useful for, say, customers that didn't particularly want to use WordPress back office, but wanted to upload product data, or they wanted to add a new product.
Yeah, you might want to create a user-friendly data entry page for somebody, and you could use it for that particular purpose.
And that helps with security as well, because not everybody needs to be an admin of WordPress to be able to do that. And I presume there's an...
Yeah, absolutely. And you can post that data as a draft, so it doesn't submit automatically.
Exactly. So an admin would approve that and edit it if necessary, I expect. So that's pretty good. Right, carry on.
Then we've got the user management add-on as well, so you can actually create, register, edit profile, login, forgotten password, reset password forms that you can put anywhere on your website. Again, those are all automatically mapped for you when you click on these, so it builds the form for you, and you can modify that, do whatever you want with it. So with the user registration, you could ask people additional questions about themselves and have that stored against that user record as custom metadata.
Cool.
Same goes with the edit profile. So you can have, maybe you want to ask somebody their age, for example, you can include that as a field on that particular form. So we've tried wherever possible to make building the form
and I can amend these so that I can have a logo on my form page and stuff and branded it. So I've got, because a lot of people want their logins to be branded and stuff like that. And there's plugins out there that do that. And obviously developers been able to do that for ages because they just...
Yeah. So the nice thing is you can come in here and actually modify this form, put these fields in any order that you want. And I'll show you that next. I'll show you how you actually modify a form and can build forms, so how easy that is. But this is essentially, once it's built, it's just a normal WS form that you can modify and make it look any way that you want.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a quick overview of the layout editor so you can see how that works.
Sure.
So we'll just start with a basic contact us form, and I'll show you some of the anatomy of the form. So you've got the form itself is actually built up of one or more tabs. So if you have one tab, it won't show the tab. It's just a single form, but you can add additional tabs to it if you want, and I'll show you that in a second. And then we have sections, and each section is made up of one or more fields. So the editor that we have, this is where John came in on the user interface side, but super simple to actually resize fields. So all you do is just click and drag the fields to any size that you want. And what this is doing behind the scenes, this is actually writing all the CSS that's needed to do that with whichever framework you're using. So at the bottom of the page here, you'll see that there's actually what's called a breakpoint selector. So this is actually showing you a preview of the form in different breakpoints. And what it does is it stores the layout of the form for each breakpoint. So on mobile, you may just want to have a single column format.
Sure.
On a laptop, you maybe want to have a double column format. On a huge laptop, a huge desktop computer, maybe you want to go to 3 columns. And what WS Form does is it then stores all the layouts for every single breakpoint. So you can actually preview this within the screen as you're building the form. You can also do an offset on these fields as well. So if you want to move a field over, you can do that. You can copy fields. You can, let me just show you the sections. So sections can actually be resized as well. And I can then copy sections. So if I had like a billing and shipping address, I can do that. If I create a tab, I can actually drag sections between tabs as well. I can actually drag fields between tabs. So it's a real simple to use editor. You can build forms very, very quickly with this.
I can name those tabs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can either double click on it and type a name in. Oh, if I could type properly. Or any of these areas on here, like the tab, the section, and the field. You'll notice when I click on that, the right-hand menu pops up. And that gives us all the options for that particular field.
Yeah.
And we have gone through the HTML5 spec pretty extensively and made the different attributes and features of those fields available to the end user. So on pretty much everything, we have a basic tab, which has all your normal stuff like your labeling, your label positioning. Yeah. You can hide fields and actually enable those with conditional logic, and we'll show you that in a moment.
Yeah.
Your default values. But then you've also got advanced areas of that as well. So, and we've gone a little bit beyond the HTML5 spec with some of these fields. So, for example, here we've got minimum characters, maximum characters. We've also got minimum words and maximum words. So you can actually do limitations on words.
Yeah.
We have input mask, pattern matching, and then we also have validation on all these fields. You can actually type in your own message that you'd like to appear if a field doesn't validate on the front end. Yeah. So you can customize that. The WS Form builds those validation messages automatically, but if they don't sound good English, you can modify those if you want to.
For sure.
Another thing that we do all the way through WS Form is we are as ARIA compliant as we can be. So behind the scenes is putting all the required accessibility tags in to make a form accessible to somebody who's maybe sight impaired, hearing impaired.
Using a screen reader or whatever it may be,
yeah, which is more and more important these days.
Well, it's a legal requirement, isn't it? And especially with, with California just doing a law, and that covers some parts of accessibility as well. And then we've got GDPR. The forms are becoming more complex from a thought process of, am I actually being compliant with all of these privacy policy things, and am I being compliant with ARIA and ADA, I think it's called somewhere else, and all that kind of stuff. Do we want to be another Domino's and argue about it? No, frankly, we want somebody to solve that issue for us. So if you've got some accessibility stuff in there, nobody's going to be ever accessibility perfect, but if we've got some of it built in, then we can rest assured that we're going.
And if you've got a WS form on your website, you can be fairly comfortable that it's going to pass the requirement checks for it.
Absolutely. One thing while we're here, because it's just because I'm very shallow, can I change the phone icons, the email icons, and things like that? Maybe that's something that people would.
Yeah, we don't have icons on the front end. You can do that with CSS. You could put whatever you wanted there to customize that. This user interface in the add-in's obviously fixed, but you could add icons within or outside of the fields if you wanted to, using your own CSS.
Right.
But the labels, the label positioning, all of that can be modified. The color of the fields and everything else, we can show you that in the customizer. So but we've had some people do some pretty amazing stuff with the final forms that they produce, and we've made like the WS form framework that we're currently in right now. It's a relatively straightforward framework. When you look behind the scenes at the code, it's pretty easy to identify classes that you can play with to adjust that if you want to. But 9 times out of 10, people just use it out of the box and it works.
Why wouldn't you? Yeah, quite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Going back to the form layout editor here, we do have full undo on this, so you can actually go back to any step that you want of your form development. And that's multi-step undo. It shows you the time that you were working on that, and you can just click on it to go back to that form if you want to. Right. This is our toolbox of all the different field types that you have. So we've got a lot of different field types in there. There's 2 ways you can add them to the form. You can either drag and drop them onto the form if you want, or you can just click and it'll add it to the bottom of the form. And I'll show you some of the cool features that we've got on these fields. I'll show you a select box, for example.
Yeah.
So one of the challenges with a lot of form plugins is their select option list is usually pretty restricted on what you can do with it. You can kind of put a list in there, and that's about it. So what we've done is we've built what we call a data grid, which is a bit like Excel spreadsheet within the editor itself.
Right.
So for every row, you can say whether or not that particular row is selected, because we support multi-select, so you could actually multi-select multiple rows if you wanted to.
Right.
You can disable rows, you can hide rows if there's particular rows you don't want to show. And then let me just quickly show you this feature here. So you can actually drag a CSV file into that, and it will then turn it into a select pull down for you. So pretty much any CSV file you've got, you can just pull that in. And if I then save that, and we'll preview this form, it's not a particularly attractive form, but there's your select pull down. So it's very, very simple to build select pull downs. Now, the other cool thing we have with that is you can, if you've got a multi-column CSV file that maybe is a country list with regions, you can actually create groups in your select file of those regions using an op group feature we have, and it does that all automatically. So for those options, for example, here we've actually got 2 columns. We've got state and abbreviation.
Yep.
We can actually say I want the value to be the abbreviation. So you can choose any column you want for the value or the label on those options there. A lot of people don't know you can actually put a data list on text fields as well. So, when you start typing into a field and a little pull down appears with suggestions,
yep.
You can do that with this. So that's actually one of the HTML5 specs that we support that a lot of others don't. So that's a quick introduction.
Hang on a second, back up there, clever boys. Back up. Tell me what I would use that for. Tell my people that are listening
so you may, maybe you've got a list of locations and you have a text field where someone can type in a location. As you're typing in that location, it would come up with suggestions based on what you've typed in. A bit like when you do a search on Google.
For sure. Okay.
It comes back with suggestions. So that's what that's for. Yeah.
And would there be logic attached to that? So say, for instance, I wanted to, and if this isn't the right question, then, tell me off for being dumb. But a lot of people want to send a form to a particular place. We've got it in Slack, and you mentioned before we can send it to anybody in Slack, or it can be tagged and it can go to the right person. But say I've got 9 people in my team, and logically I want one of those 9 to receive a form if it's a particular type of inquiry. So can I do that with this form?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's several ways you could do that. You could have a select pull down. You could have a radio button.
Could I have it based on a choice of what they've chosen in the text?
Yeah. So if they could say, I've got a sales inquiry or a technical support inquiry, there's various ways we can actually modify the actions that run when that form is submitted to determine where that's going.
So for instance, if I want a product quote and I've got 1,000 products, I can search for that product.
Yep.
And the inquiry would go to the relevant department, or would say connect to that product and allow me to see which product I'm inquiring on for
that could be done. Yeah.
Support guys.
And one of the other things that we have is we've got a lot of hooks and other features like that could be run when the form is submitted. So if you've got some very complex logic that needs to happen when that form is submitted to determine where that needs to go, you can write a PHP script to modify the email action before it's actually sent. So we give full access on the developer side for them to actually modify that submission before it's emailed when that form is submitted. And we have that all in our knowledge base.
I mean, one thing I did notice, when I was using this form, is that the knowledge base is, should we say, extensive? And that's what's missing on a lot of stuff. And some people say, oh, well, I just want a form builder and it will just do that. Well, you can do that with this. You can just use it intuitively. But if you want to do some complex stuff like, sending a form to a particular person for a particular reason, then, there's a knowledge base around that, or you want to attach it, or you want it to have a particular function, then I noticed on the knowledge base, for instance, that you can basically really quickly find stuff that you need to do around the subject matter that you're searching for. So
and as we've listened to support tickets we get, we usually write a knowledge base article about that experience.
Great idea. That helps with you cutting down support. I tend to try and do that. Right, moving on swiftly, because we could talk for hours about this, and we probably will. So
let's do some of the key stuff on here. Yeah. So let's quickly show you some conditional logic and show you how that works. So this just for a very basic example, what we'll do, we'll create 2 sections on here. Let's just call this one "Show Me," for example. And maybe what we'll do is we'll put a checkbox over here, and then we'll go into the conditional logic and show you how this works. So what I'm going to do is just expand this out and make it a bit easier to look at. And this is our conditional logic editor. So you've got an if statement, a then, and an else. So the basic idea behind conditional logic is if this condition is true, then we'll run this. If not, we'll do this.
Gotcha.
On the else side. So we'll say, okay, if checkbox, a particular row is checked, and we'll say checkbox 1, then we'll choose the show me section, and we'll say set the visibility on that to visible. Now you'll notice it automatically created an else statement for you, which you can either keep or delete, whatever you want to do with it. So if I hit save on that, and then we'll preview that, go to tab 1, hit checkbox 1, and then that section appears. So really, really easy to produce conditional logic. And our conditional logic is actually context sensitive as well, depending on the fields that you're choosing and that you're working with. So for example, because this is a section, it is showing these particular options for that section. If I choose a text field, I've got a completely different set of things I can do with that. So you can do things like focus in it, or you could set a value, you could disable it, add classes to it. You can even set custom validity messages on that as well. So if that field doesn't validate, you can actually change that message if you want to.
Cool.
Another cool one is the color fields. Let me just show you an example on the WooCommerce example that we have that shows you how you can actually use color hues or the lightness of a color in Conditional Logic to then change the form. So if I go to this color selector here, if you look at the WooCommerce logo on a t-shirt, as I make this dark, it goes white. And as I make it lighter, it goes dark. Now, this is all being done in Conditional Logic in WS Form based upon that particular color field there. So that's Conditional Logic, and you can add any number of Conditional Logic conditions in there as you want. And what we've done is we've focused all the conditions in this box here, as opposed to them being hidden in the fields, which we think makes it a lot easier to...
I think if you've got the focus on away from the form, I think that makes it much easier to figure out your own logic, if you like. It's much easier. I do find forms that have the conditional logic as a drop down. You got to scroll, and you got to I like the way you can expand the window as well to look at it. So that's John's idea, is it? And that's John's kind of
anything visual is his fault.
Well, anything visual, quite. But it's about user interface and user experience, isn't it?
It is.
So if as developers or as people that are building websites, I never really call myself a developer. I'm a website builder. I let other people do the design, and I put them together myself. But my general thought is that I need things to be, quicker, better, cheaper. And this is without actually losing any quality. Like that's where the better comes from. And what I can see from this is that this is, quite possibly one of the best form builders I've ever seen. I'm really struck by, one, how easy it is to use. Two, the fact that you've got on the pricing, you've got an all access situation as well, so you can have every single addition to it, and they're all separately licensed and everything. I like the fact that it's a subscription model, because I believe in subscription to be able to keep you guys incentivized to keep on developing and stuff like that. And I love the way that we've got a great interface here, guys. I mean, this is really, really easy to use. I've used it. I'm building a subscription website now for me on web maintenance, and I'm using WS Forms to send the subscription payment to PayPal and Stripe.
Right.
And I don't need WooCommerce subscriptions for that. I was just setting it up within Stripe and PayPal.
Yeah, and we have Stripe, we have PayPal, and we have Authorize as well, authorize.net.
Yeah.
And we use the latest APIs with those as well. So making sure that we're ahead of the game on all their compliance.
Well, I'm doing some testing and it seems to work.
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that I don't need for a very simple, say for instance, I've got a maintenance website and I want people to sign up to a monthly.
Yeah.
I can use my form, and I can actually use my form to connect to Go Cardless as well, and to throw that information to Go Cardless. You probably never even thought about that, but that's what we're doing, is we're chucking that information to say pay by Go Cardless, pre-filling their form fields with our form fields by using WS Form.
Yeah, and these are ideas that we want to hear from people, because we're very responsive to the needs of the customers. And a lot of the ideas that we have in WS Form are as a result of listening to people that are using it. Like, can it do this? A simple example of that is we have a date picker, and the date picker that we have started at 1950 by default, and a gentleman wanted it to start way before that because he was doing something to do with ancestry.
Right.
So we had a feature so he could do date from, and we released it in the next release. And we do release new versions of this quite frequently, and we have the luxury of being able to do that. We're quite a small company, so we're very responsive. But we love hearing from people. We love hearing about what they want this product to do. and we typically turn around implementations of what people come up with relatively quickly. And we've got some great future plans for this product that are coming up. So yeah, it's
correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that you can set this up as to handle your product purchases, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we have a basic set of e-commerce fields in WS Form, and I can show you a quick example of that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that, because what confusion is about licensing and costing, and if I have to buy this at whatever it is, do I also have to buy WooCommerce or EDD or cart flows or anything like this? And will this save me money, time, and effort? And that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to compete with WooCommerce, obviously.
Why not?
EDD. Well, I'll be building a whole e-commerce platform, but for basic e-commerce, like a donation or ordering a gift card or a T-shirt order, something like that, you can do all of that with WS Form. This is an example e-commerce form demo. One of the nice things about WS Form, again, is you can resize this, reorganize it any way that you want. And if I just preview this particular form, here's a very simple example of e-commerce. So I've got a price field where I can put an amount in. That may be a donation field. I can actually add products by checkboxes, by radios, by select pull downs.
And I can put images on this, can I, or not?
Yeah. So you could add an image of the product. You could even change the image based upon a selection on the page using conditional logic.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the basic e-commerce we have. And we have a lot of people using that just with a Stripe add-on to make a payment for something, maybe a simple event ticket.
Yeah.
In addition to that, we do have a Woocommerce extension as well. So our Woocommerce extension is available on the Woocommerce marketplace site, and it enables you to modify WooCommerce products and make them customizable using WS Form. So an example of that, if I show you a multi-tab WS Form within a WooCommerce product. So now what I've got is a product that's for sale through WooCommerce that I can now customize using fields from WS Form. And I've got my progress bar in there. I can put my city, my state. I can go to the next tab, choose features on there. Now, this is all WS Form.
I mean, this is great, guys. I mean, this is...
You can put a signature field in there for approval. And then once you have filled this all out, and I've obviously missed a field somewhere. Yeah, zip code in there. I can then add that to the cart. So I add it to the cart. And there is my cart entry there with all the fields that I typed into WS Form. So you can use this to extend WooCommerce and give all of the fields that we have in WS Form can then be used on WooCommerce products. And you can use the same form on multiple products as well. So if you've come up with a nice customization that you want to use on 10 different products, you can do that very, very easily.
Yeah, so you can easily clone the form. And excuse me, I'm going to have a little promo of one of my products, which is pagebuildercloud.com. We've integrated Caldera and Gravity Forms so that people can actually save their forms. So effectively, it's a cloud service. So I'm presuming that I'm going to add this to PageBuilder Cloud. So there's I may need to ask you some advice on that, or put my dev onto you and say, right, we want to integrate this, because I can see a multitude of opportunities for people to actually build forms, product forms, make them look great, and then be able to save them up to a cloud and say, this is a WS form. Once I put plugins with all the relevant add-ons, if I need them there, and then I just go to the page builder cloud and say, right, I'm going to use this form because it's pretty.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can download forms very easily with this. So if I click download, it just downloads a JSON file.
Yes, it saves it as a JSON. So there's no, this is getting added to Page Builder Cloud, Mark. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And then you like it or not.
And all you do with your JSON file is you drag your file into the form, and there it is, and it'll actually build that form in. Now, the cool thing about that is when you import a form from one site to another, your field IDs and things like that are going to change. because you've got different IDs in the database. What ours does, it actually reassigns all of those IDs, even in your conditional logic. So, for example, we have a complete variable library that you can use. So, for example, you can put the blog name in as a default value, or you can use other field values elsewhere in your system. When you import the form onto a different website, it actually changes all those ID numbers automatically for you. So it migrates over perfectly.
And what about emails? Because obviously when there's to send an email, I mean, this obviously integrates with all the SMTP send mails, and it integrates with WP Mail and PHP Mail.
Yeah. So we use the standard WP Mail function in WordPress to send mail. So therefore, if you're using any SMTP plugins, it would work perfectly well with those.
Right.
So that kind of brings me on to the last thing I wanted to show you, the main thing on here, which is the actions. And a lot of form plugins will have the ability to send an email notification, and that's about it. Or you can add on an integration with MailChimp or something else. What we've done is with actions, you can choose any number of actions that you want. You can send any number of emails. You can show notification messages when that form is submitted, do redirects, anything that you want. And that's handled with this list here. So if I want to add a new action, I just click on Add here. I choose one of the actions that I have installed. So I could even run JavaScript. I can run a WordPress hook. I can even run a WordPress search. But if I wanted to send another email to somebody, I just choose Send Email. I'll expand this out. And then here's all your email options. So we support, pretty much anything that WP Mail supports, we can put in there. So you've got 2 addresses, CC, BCCs. Yeah. There's your email message. You can do attachments. You can even put in custom email headers. So if you're using a third party, such as SendMail or something like that. Yeah. They give you the ability to put headers in there to track sources and things like that.
Sure.
So you can add that functionality in here. And this is also where you have actions such as add to MailChimp, add to Slack, any additional options that you have. So here you can see you can choose the Slack channel, and then a bunch of options appear underneath that. Yeah. The other cool thing with this is like the messages. You can actually add multiple messages. So you can say thank you, wait a few seconds, and then show another message, and then wait a few seconds, and then redirect. And you can actually change the order of these actions. I just close that out. So you can actually reorder these actions as well and determine what order you want those to actually run in as well.
And plus, any of these actions can be triggered with conditional logic as well.
Yeah. So you could, for example, if someone clicks on tab 2 or fills out this particular email field, you can actually fire an action based upon that event on the form. So you don't have to wait until that submit button is clicked. And in addition to submit, we do have save as well. So you can save your progress with the form. Right. That's useful for much bigger forms. So people can come back and complete
and how many tabs can I have? Within reason, obviously, we're talking about a web interface. and
It's unlimited, but yeah, you'd want to keep it within reason.
You want to keep it. And obviously I can attach logic to when they finished it, the first tab, it just opens up the second tab.
Yeah, you can do that. And you can also, we have a number of different buttons down here. So you can actually put a previous tab button on there. You can put a next tab button on there. And lay it out, any way you want. One of the other things I wanted to show you very, very quickly was on the WooCommerce side. One of the things that we have done is when you go to a product, you can actually put your own add to cart button on your form anywhere that you want. So you don't have to use the default WooCommerce add to cart button. You can put it on the right, put it on the left. Even the clear button for variation selection can be put wherever you want. So when you've got the WooCommerce add-on installed, you can really customize that product any way that you want. So we've actually created form elements, for field types for the different WooCommerce elements, so you can customize that yourself.
Which is really cool. I noticed some things. Range slider. Why would I use that, for instance?
So range slider, that's actually quite a cool feature if you want to give someone the option of choosing an amount for a donation. They could just drag a range slider. You can use it for, Well, we do have like a rating field as well, but you could use the range slider for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
The rating field is pretty cool. So that one there, you can actually, out of the box, it'll give you just a normal looking rating selector that you would expect to see.
Okay.
You can customize that. So you can say, I want that to be red.
Right.
Whatever color you want. And I can also choose the size of it. I can choose what icon it is. So if I wanted it to be circles, I can even put my custom HTML in for every rating part if I want to.
Wow.
So I could say, right, I want it to be circles, and let's see what else we've got on here. I can say maximum rating of, say, 10. Hit save. So if I then refresh that preview, there you go.
So I've got, say I've got Give WP or something similar, or Donate or something.
Yeah.
I could use that form. I could use this form.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So you can,
right. If I've got if I don't want to use WooCommerce, I can use this form for simple products.
Yes.
Variations.
We do have the ability to have like select pull downs and radios to choose different types of product and change the price based upon those. So pretty much all of our choice fields are also available under e-commerce here. So I can do a price change. I can actually do a price range slider as well.
Yeah. I don't think anybody else has that.
Yeah.
This is what I'm. This isn't just. Come on, guys. This is not just a form. You've got something here that is so much more than a form. I know that Gravity Forms has some e-commerce capabilities and stuff like that.
Yep.
But I've not, and I'm a Gravity Forms user and a Caldera Forms. I mean, it's Caldera Ninja, so I'm a little bit confused about who they are at the moment, but I'll get over that, I'm sure. But you've got also, these range sliders, the conditional logic, the HTML that you can put in there, the fact that it's Bootstrap or anything that you want it to be, the Divi modules, the Elementor modules, the Beaver Builder modules.
Yeah. And we have the legal field as well. So if you've got Termageddon, you can actually...
Oh, well, you just mentioned Termageddon to me. I love Termageddon. I love Termageddon. We've got a great relationship, both personal and business with these guys. We help them grow a little bit, which is great. But, what I love about them is that, one, they're really cool people, and two, they're cool on the knowledgeable side as well. If they know what's going on with privacy, particularly in the States. I've obviously, because I'm UK based, you're not, by the way, where are you based? Did we say that?
New Orleans, Louisiana. Yeah.
You're in New Orleans, Louisiana, and you're English, which is.
I married a New Orleans girl. That was it. I was stuck.
Yeah, so you've met my honorary mate, which is cool. But Termageddon are great, but you've actually got. So if I've got a privacy policy, can I just put that straight on my form or something, or connect it directly?
Yeah, and that's why we built the relationship with them. We love their product. It's super easy to use.
Everybody does, I've got to tell you, everybody in the WordPress kind of ecosphere that are, hosting, dealing with sensitive information, ADA or whatever it is, ARIA, that Termageddon is really, they're really cooking with gas at the moment. So because they know what they're doing.
And it's the implementation of it is very, very simple. And we've made that even easier with this. So you literally just take the key for the policy that you want to show on the form, hit save, and it then puts the policy on the form for you. And there's two options with that. You can actually put a height restriction on that particular policy. So you can kind of scroll it up and down, or you can remove that and have it full page if you want. So, and we've worked with them to build that integration, and it's super simple to use. You can put your privacy policy. One of the things that we have done, kind of beyond what their widget can do, is you can actually put a privacy policy and terms and conditions on the same page. So if you want to show both of those and have them approve it, you can do that with this. And again, these legal fields are fully responsive again. So you could have, two legal fields side by side if you wanted to at a certain breakpoint. So all the fields we have are fully responsive.
I mean,
we also have Recapture as well. So if you want to reduce spam, you can. We support Recapture version 2 and version 3, which is the newer version of Recapture that is kind of a silent behind the scenes Recapture.
Yeah.
And then we also, we've got all the usual form options in here. So if you want to do Google Analytics tracking, we have that all built in. What it actually does is it also detects the version of the Google tag you're running on your website and modifies how it's behaving based upon the version that you're running. Under the actions, you can also fire conversion tags as well. So conversion tracking is all built in. So I could say I want to fire a Google Analytics event when that conversion takes place. You've also got tracking options, which we switch off by default to respect privacy and based upon what your privacy policy is. But you can log remote IP addresses, referrers. We also have geotagging based upon IP address all built into this. UTM tags if you want to use those, and we have some spam protection features as well. So if you're using
got your own honeypot built in and stuff like that. There's I need to ask you something, and I've kind of lost it. So just give me 3.5 seconds to remember what I was doing. MailChimp. You're currently integrating with MailChimp.
Yep.
ActiveCampaign.
Let's bring up a page and show you what we've got, so you can see the current plugins that we have. And this is growing all the time. We have quite a nice little platform for these add-ons. So you've got a Weber campaign monitor.
Well, you've basically just answered, Mike. So you've got Constant Contact, which was one of the very first. If you've been in the web world for a little while, you know that Constant Contact was basically the starter. You've got Drip, you've got Get Response, you've got. I mean, guys, you've got you've got everything that I would need. I use ActiveCampaign. I use Google tagging. I use MailChimp as well on a couple of other websites. My clients use it, but you've got post management, which I really, really like. The fact that you're integrating with Salesforce, which have now they just bought a bit of Automatic for about $300 million, I think. So, integrating with a fairly well-known company there and part of WordPress now.
And then we have some support options like Zendesk. So if you want to create a form in your site for your Zendesk support desk, you can do that. It'll push it through as a support ticket. And then, for everything else, while we're developing other add-ons, you've got Zapier, so you can pretty much plug it into anything. Plus, we've got the ability to run WordPress hooks. One of the other things that we have is, let me just show you this. So you've also got the ability to push to a custom endpoint. So this is if you've got any kind of API endpoint where you want to post that data to that we don't support out of the box, you can do that with this. So if you've got a third-party integration that you want to work with, and it'll handle just doing that with a regular post request, you can field map to whatever keys you want.
Put post, get post, whatever it's using. That's pretty cool. Well, as I say, Randy's doing a little guide for our users and stuff like that. But I mean, this is really quite. I'm very rarely speechless. I'm because I've used it a bit, and I was talking with one of my devs today, and we were talking about integrating it and the fact we don't need WooCommerce or EDD or anything like that, because the subscription model that we're using is for maintenance, doing maintenance for websites and stuff like that. So there's no licensing involved or any kind of complexity. I suppose we could push it to a license. I don't know. There seems to be so much in this. You've got tutorial videos of you and plus a knowledge base.
We do, yeah. So there's a full knowledge base of pretty much every feature we've shown you. And then we've got quite a few videos like the layout editor, conditional logic to talk you through that. Working on some more videos. There's always more we can write about. That, and then we have support for all of our users. We're very, very responsive on support. We're very, very hot on that. And I think that's reflected in the 5-star reviews we've had on WordPress, because we do have a free version of this on WordPress.org on the plugin directory. It's a cut down version, doesn't have all the fields, but you can build a perfectly competent.
I'm not going to be. I mean, you could. I'm not going to be. I'm going to be frank here. These people this is so good, people need to pay for it. It's that simple. And with on the blog post that this is under, this is above or under wherever that Randy writes, there is a deal for our users, whether they're WordPress users, Elementor page, whatever page builder they're using, there will be a deal for them, which will be a no-brainer to take on, because I think this is certainly, just by looking at it and finding out a little bit extra about it, for me, it's blown my mind. It's really, I'm thinking, well, I can use this for pretty much anything I want. I've got, for instance, I'll give you for instance, I'm doing a tailor's website.
Okay.
I've got all sorts of conditional logic in there. What size are you? What would, put this in, so it all gives it and everything. And then, getting a price for, working out square meterage of material on a shirt. For me particularly, it would probably be £1,000, but that's the kind of thing. So I can see all sorts of opportunities for people to build forms that will knock the socks off other form solutions out there. Now, not to say that we're not criticizing the other forms. What I'm thinking you've done here is going to cause a little bit of the other forms to think about what actually they're doing and how to.
Yeah, I think one of the key things that we've done is we've bundled in a lot of functionality that you would otherwise have to pay for with separate plugins.
Yeah,
and our product, the core of our product, I mean, you're looking at $350 worth of plugins with some of our competitors in order to implement the same functionality. So value for money, we believe that we offer a lot more. We believe that our layout editor is a lot easier to use. We are mobile responsive out of the box. A lot of the other plugins, you just don't get that, or you've got to buy an add-on to do it.
You do. I mean, the point is that, if you've been using Contact Form 7 for as long as I have, and to make it do what you actually want it, or make it look like you want, there's a lot of work needs to be done, and I think you've done great. Round of applause, everybody, because I think this form is crazy. Right. So that's enough of us. Waffling on. As I say, you and I are going to sit down and sort out the deal that we're going to give Elegant Marketplace. It's going to be brilliant anyway. I know it is, even if there's no deal, but it's just, I'm really impressed, guys. I'm really impressed. John, the UI is great. The UX is great. The simplicity of it, the mobile responsiveness of it is astounding. The logic, everything about this plugin, I'm absolutely in awe of it, because I used to be able to code. Not now.
Yeah, you don't need to.
I'm going to give up. I mean, why would I need a code when there's guys like you? Right. So it's just to say thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Andrew.
We're going to be pushing this out. We're going to be sending emails about this, because I really think I'm going to evangelize about this. I never evangelize about anything really, but there's a couple of reasons why we need to get this out. One, it's easy to use. Two, it's really it's cost effective. And three, you can pretty much do anything you want with it.
Yeah, we use it for our clients. That's why we did it in the first place. So we use it day in, day out.
Well, that's often the solution, isn't it? Beaver Builder were an agency, Elementor were an agency. And they had a situation. They said, well, I'm not happy with what's out there. I'm going to build it. Site Origin, the same.
Great products,
Poodle Press, the same. They've all proper developers that have grown up and thought, right, there's not a solution out there for me. I'm going to build it. How cool is that to be able to do that? Right. So it's just before Christmas now. We're recording this, but we're going to sort this out in the new year. We're all going to have a little bit of a rest. This email will arrive in people's inboxes probably just in the first week of January, second week of January. Congratulations, guys! You have got a product that is this is going to fly, really going to fly. So just leaves me to say thanks for watching this video. You can see that I'm literally speechless, people out here. So get on this. And Mark and John, thanks for your time. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
See ya.